Children, let's start the second poem of your textbook Flamingo, an elementary school classroom in a slum, written by Stephen Spender. So, first of all, about the author, Stephen Spender, who was an English poet, was born on February 28, 1909, in London. He attended Oxford University and fought in the Spanish Civil War. In the 1920s and 1930s, he associated with other poets and socialists such as W.H. Auden, Christopher Isherwood, and so on. His early poetry was often inspired by social protest. During World War II, Spender was a member of the National Fire Service and he remained in that service for 4 years, from 1941 to 1944. After the Second World War, he made several visits to the United States, teaching and lecturing at universities, and in 1965, he became the first non American to serve as poetry consultant to the Library of Congress, a position he held for 1 year. In 1970, he was appointed the professor of English at University College London. He became Professor Emeritus in 1977. Emeritus means a professor who is retired but still holds the position or honor. He was knighted, that is, a title conferred on him in 1983. After that only, he used the word Sir before his name. He died in the year 1995. In this poem, Stephen Spender deals with the theme of social injustice and class inequalities. He presents the theme by talking of two different and incompatible worlds. Two different worlds, the world of rich and the civilized, and the world of poor and illiterate. Now, these rich and civilized people has nothing to do with the world of poor people, which is a world of narrow lanes and crammed holes. The gap between these two worlds highlights social disparities and class inequalities. Stephen Spender has concentrated on social injustice and class inequalities. He often feels very deeply about this thing. This poem tells us about the miserable condition of the slum. It also symbolizes the hopeless minds of the children, their despair, and monotony of their life. What is the message of the poem? The message of the poem is that they must be given enough education, or the education in the true sense of the term, that they should also able to progress in their life and enjoy their life. So the theme of the poem is social injustice and class inequalities that we have just read. So two class, one is the class of the rich people, the privileged one, the lucky ones, and the other is poor people, like people living in the slum area. And the gap between these two worlds is so great, especially after the world wars, that it seems that this gap cannot be bridged. And these people are the victim of the social injustice, as they are being isolated. They are being treated as if they are the unwanted part of the society. So that is the social injustice. Nothing is done to uh, bring them at par with the other class of the society, not for their education or anything else. So that is the injustice done to them. In the first stanza, the sub theme that runs here, the poet tells us about the plight of the slum children. That plight means their bad condition, who are studying in a slum school. These children are the victims of extreme poverty, so they lack any hope or enthusiasm for life. For poem 2, the glossary of the first danger. Gusty means very strong blowing winds or waves. So it refers to the life, but or the jubilation of life, the enjoyments of life. But these small children, they lack it. Weeds, that is unwanted plants that choke other plants. Pallor, it's a pale face, unhealthy pale face due to illness or any kind of ailments. Weighed down, depressed due to burden or overburdened. Paper simming means very lean and thin. Stunted, underdeveloped. Heir, that is successor. Twisted, bent. Gnarled again means twisted. It's a kind of a disease. Dim, dull. So let's start the poem now. Far, far from gusty waves, these children faces like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor. Poet is saying that these children faces lack the enjoyment, the happiness, the brightness, because they are far, far away from the jubilation of life, from the enjoyment of life. Let's see their classrooms. These are their classrooms. Very congested, cramped. They don't even have the proper place to sit. How close they are sitting to each other. See the another one. This is the condition of their classroom. The dull, very illiterate classroom. They don't even have the proper light here. Okay, and so many children in one single room. So this is the condition of their classroom. That's why the poet is saying that they are far, far from the gusty waves. Like this privileged children, these lucky children of the rich parents, they are enjoying themselves on the sea beach, in the green area. But see how they are enjoying themselves. So every child, everyone has a right to enjoy himself or herself, but these children of the slum school, they don't get the chance to enjoy themselves. They are far, far away this happiness, this jubilation of life. And so their faces also lack this happiness. The hair torn round their pallor. The hair Their hair is not kept, this unkept hair is not made, so they are coming on their face, and that's why this their hair seems to be like rootless weeds. Rootless because they have nowhere to go, and weeds are the unwanted plants. So here the poet wants to say that these children are like rootless weeds, as if they belong to nowhere. Society doesn't take them as a part of it. So that's why rootless weeds. And pale means unhealthy, pale complexion. Now, then he describes a few students of that elementary school classroom. First is a tall girl with her weighed down head. The girl is tall means she is overage perhaps for that class, and she's sitting with her head bowed down. What is the weight on her head? That is the weight of poverty, the struggle of the life, the miseries of the life. And perhaps because of that, she is disinterested in that class and she is sitting with her head down. Second student that she describes the paper simming boy with rat's eyes, the stunted, unlucky ear of twisted bone. The boy is as thin as paper. So that's why the paper simming boy. And his eyes pop out from his thin body, looking furtive like rat's eyes. how does rat's eyes look? Is like he's fearful of something or hungry for something. So that kind of eyes it looks, because the body is very thin, as he is the victim of malnourishment. That's why he's very thin, as thin as paper. Poet has made that comparison. So he's a victim of malnourishment. So his eye seems to be pop out from his thin face. The stunted, his growth is stopped. So he is underdeveloped. Unlucky heir. Heir means successor, inheritor. Now, one who inherits anything from the parents or grandparents. So, what one inherits? Property, wealth, these things, right? But what this poor boy has inherited, not only the poverty he has inherited, but along with that, he has inherited disease, a genetic disease of twisted bones. So that's why he's called unlucky ear. Unlucky ear of twisted bone. Reciting a father's gnarled disease. Gnarled disease is again the same disease of the twisted bone. See here how it looks like. So the bones get twisted, or the knots appear on the different parts of the that part of the body where body is affected with this disease. So when he is reciting, he's asked to recite his lesson. When he's reciting his lesson, it seems as if he is reciting his father's Nal's disease. Reciting means enumerating, speaking clearly. Okay. But because he is suffering from this disease, so his speech is also not clear. And when one hears the way he speaks, one can make out that he's suffering from this gnarled disease. So that's why reciting a father's gnarled disease. His lessons from his this. So when he is reciting the lesson, it seems as if he is suffering from the same disease that his father suffered. Now there is another boy at back of the dim class, as we saw earlier that the class is very dim, illit class, and there is one unnoted unnoticed by others. There is a sweet and young boy, young because he might be younger than the other children of the class, so that's why he's called sweet and young. His eyes live in a dream. He's still dreaming. He has not lost all hope for his future, for his life. Maybe he's too young to understand that what his life would be. He's too young for poverty to stifle his dreams, his desire. So he's still dreaming, he's still hoping. His eyes live in a dream. What he is dreaming about? Of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. Other than this refers to his ill lit, dull classroom. So he's thinking about not about his classroom, he's thinking about an open field, an open area, a beautiful area where he can play. He can play the game like squirrel's game. In tree room referred to the hole in the tree where the squirrel lives. So he's thinking about the games that he want to play. He still has his hopes and his dream with him. So first stanza is completed here. Now the figure of speech in this stanza. In the very first line, far, far from gusty waves, far word is repeated. So the figure of speech used here is repetition. Then in the second line, we have like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pillow. So here, two unlike things are being compared, hair and rootless weeds, and with the words like. So simile has been used there. Then the paper simming boy. Boy is as thin as paper. So here the comparison has been made between two unlike things without using the word like or as. So comparison is implied. So the figure of speech used here is metaphor. Okay, and same with boys with the rat's eyes. So here we have completed the first stanza. I hope you have understood. Thank you and have a nice day.